Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. The 12-day campaign between Israel and Iran, which the US joined for the final act, ended over a month ago. And while the Iranian nuclear program has been dealt a severe blow, the Iranian threat has not been completely eradicated. Right now, diplomacy appears to be the name of the Iranian game, but the path to recovery and regeneration of their weapons development remains feasible, even in the face of threats by Israeli and US officials that enforcement measures would be taken should it emerge that threats are once again looming on the Iranian horizon. So now the question remains, are we currently in an extended aftermath of the war, or are we merely enjoying a brief respite between the two storms? Joining us to discuss this matter all the way from the United States is Professor Russell Berman, formerly served as a senior advisor at the U.S. State Department's policy planning staff, currently the director of the Middle East Project, or working group rather, at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University. It's great to see you, Russell.
Good to see you, Jonathan.
Also joining us is Brigadier General in Reserve Rosen, formerly the IDF Chief of Cyber Staff and Israel Air Force Commander, as well as a fighter pilot. It's great to see you, General.
Good to see you.
And last but not least, our TV7 editor-at-large, Mr. Amir Oren. Amir, the 12-day campaign, or Operation Rising Lion, as it's dubbed here in Israel, is merely characterized by the majority of those who I've had the pleasure of speaking with as one cycle in a broader sequence of events. Right now we're seeing also a certain mysterious explosions, or a number of mysterious explosions frustrating Iran's regime. But all in all, it seems like the Ayatollah regime remains adamant, at least publicly speaking, on its rights to enrich and to pursue its various goals, and its efforts also to further bolster its various proxies, irrespective of their decapitation over the course of the past couple of years now.
So there are at least two overt tracks which the regime has been undertaking, and most probably another one, a covert one. The covert one being whatever they have done with the enriched uranium, which has not been visible ever since the bombing of Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. And the two more explicit tracks are the propaganda, mostly enunciated by the Supreme Leader Khamenei, who is trying to bolster morale, to say that yes, we have lost many top commanders and scientists, but we will persevere and the work will go on. At the same time, his foreign minister, Arakchi, has been trying, surprisingly enough, to be on President Trump's good side. He has condemned the former President Biden in his pronouncement, which is, of course, the same line Trump has been taking in public. And Arakchi has signaled his willingness to negotiate first with his European counterparts and hopefully for him to engage the Americans. Of course, what is most of concern to Iran is the Snapback Mechanism, which is only less than 3 months away now, with the sanctions being once again
October 18th.
Right, imposed on Iran. The consensus in most intelligence agencies is that the Iranian effort has been set back at least a year. This is enough time to negotiate, but also to prepare an enforcement regime should these intentions by the Iranians to renew their efforts come to fruition.
Indeed. Well, both the United States and E3, namely Britain, France, and Germany, have set a date as a deadline, namely August 31st, to reach some type of an accommodated solution. On that, Professor Berman, are we expected to see more of the same, or is there true resolve this time in the halls of power in the West to confront Iran's aspirations to attain nuclear weapon capabilities?
The uh, hits on the Iranian sites have no doubt set back the Iranian nuclear project considerably. Whether it's 1 year, whether it's more than that, that can't be said. Uh, in the political discourse, immediately in the wake of the attacks, um, opponents began to claim that they had no effect. This is just silly. Of course, Iran has been hit and hit hard. But Iran has not disappeared, nor has the regime been changed. Um, Therefore, the Iranians are going to continue to try to resuscitate their weaponization program and assert a claim to enrichment that can only serve an aggressive agenda. Now, will the international community be prepared to push for the snapback? Certainly, the Trump administration will be. The question is where will the Europeans be on this? Right now, it appears that the Europeans are doing their best to get on the best side of the Trump administration, believe it or not. I think without the Trump administration, they would waffle thoroughly. But because of the trade negotiations, because of their other concerns about support for Ukraine, they may well fall in line behind the Trump administration.
We did hear reports about the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz coming out and providing assurances to Washington that they would be the ones to trigger the snapback mechanism. Was that indeed confirmed? Do you know that?
I haven't heard a confirmation of that, but that would make a lot of sense. I mean, Mertz is obviously tougher than his predecessor on security matters, but my perhaps cynical estimation of European Iran policy is that it's really a function of their positioning themselves toward Washington.
Indeed. Well, General Zinn, Israel naturally has pounded on Iran's strategic infrastructure, including its nuclear program. It has eliminated, according to a number of publicly available assessments or BDA assessments, the first and second and much of the third cycle of nuclear scientists, something that, of course, will be of great consequence to Iranian aspirations in this context. But nonetheless, it's not a done deal, so to speak. The Iranians are still in the cockpit. How are we to take the whole equation into the broader picture, considering Israel's continued resolve to ensure that Iran does not attain nuclear weapon capabilities?
So this is not over. It's sort of an intermission. How this intermission looks like, how long it is, we're not sure. And no one can tell when we don't have the crystal ball. But it's I think following Professor Berman, the outcome is pretty clear. The nuclear program, both the capabilities, the sites, and the scientists are degraded, greatly degraded. Again, whether it's going to affect for a year or more, it's hard to say. The military capabilities are very much degraded. And I think most importantly, what the United States achieved is credibility. And that was something we spoke about here time and again. The credibility to use force, the willingness to use force is a very, very important thing with this carrot and stick diplomacy that is now on the table. Because before that, we did not have this credibility because the previous administration was very hesitant to use force. And now it has been proved that the United States goes in when needed, very, very coordinated with Israel. So the connection between Israel and the United States is another credible thing that cannot, we can't deny it. It's out there. So having said that, Iran did not disappear. It's still there. It has ballistic missiles in the stockpile. Not everything they had. It has the proxy, so the Houthis are still very active and doing everything they can to stay afloat, and more than that. And I think Tehran will continue under the threshold of war to, do whatever damage it can. By the way, I'm sure that things are exploding in Iran as we speak, because both sides are working under the threshold of war. And I think this will stay as it is, and Iran will avoid going into the second chapter of this 12-day war, another 12-day, unless it sees that it needs some kind of leverage to say, hey, we want to achieve something. I'm not sure how it will come back in what shape and form. But I think that we do have about a 6 months window. Again, the snapback inside this period, around this, okay, let's postpone it another month. There will be discussions on that. All these things will be in the next 6 months. And this is a very, very important period, because it's tied to the wider stability of the region, whether it's the expansion of the Abrahamic Accords with everything that's going on in Syria, which Iran does not want, but it might get, Saudi Arabia and the GCC also seeing that being friends with the US makes sense suddenly with this administration. And I think that's what we'll see in the near future.
Thank you, General. Mr. Owen, when we're talking about latest reports on the ins and outs of what was happening in Iran, one of those was, of course, the report by David Ignatius at the Wall Street, or the Washington Post, rather. He was speaking about EMP munitions.
Yes, the electromagnetic pulse. Now,
a nuclear fusion bomb, which is a lot more complex than just a regular nuclear weapon.
Well, of course, this was another item. Fusion, fission, and the EMP. Now, EMP, as General Rosen knows better than all three of us, this has been talked about for many decades now. Up to now, no country or organization has made use of it. And the idea, of course, is to explode a device above your infrastructure so that communications and other measures are out. Of course, you can harden your infrastructure. You can find alternatives.
Very Matrix-like.
And when you live in Israel, this is not an important item to be reported abroad, because it's really almost comical. But every other day, another quote-unquote Iranian spy is being uncovered. Very amateurish, almost childish. It turns out that the Iranian intelligence services are trying to recruit Israelis to, first of all, deface buildings with graffiti against the regime. They send them on childish errands to test their ability to provide intelligence. And they are picked up by Israeli counterintelligence all the time. Now, whether this is a clever ploy to disguise the very professional network that they may have, this is possible. But the fact that they were totally surprised on June the 13th or June the 12th in the United States by the Israeli strike means that they are really helpless. And therefore, maybe they have this electromagnetic pulse in a very crude form.
Well, Ignatius speaks about a study that was conducted in Iran for this. Of course, it does, the underlying to this point, which I am taking out of it, is that the Iranians are trying to pursue not just one track of a nuclear device, but rather broadening their horizon.
Everyone has always been trying to go down the uranium track or route, the plutonium route, fission. This is a standard operating procedure.
Well, Professor Berman, I'd like to ask you from a perspective from the United States currently. Just this week, we heard President Donald Trump coming out and stating that if the Iranians once again pursue a nuclear device, the United States will not stand idly by, but will act to degrade it, destroy it, as he put it. To what degree does President Trump have the political will or the backing in order to really engage Iran and hold it accountable for its malign aspirations?
Oh, President Trump has effectively complete backing on the Iran question. There are no Iran doves outside of the far extreme of the Democratic Party. He has the Republican Party solidly behind him. The Democratic Party, as you read in the press, is in total disarray. On this point, he holds all the cards. I think a major achievement of the Trump administration so far, and this continues what he undertook during his first administration, is restoring, as General Rosen pointed out, credibility. He's not going to use force wantonly. He's inclined to look for peaceful solutions, but he's no dove. He will draw red lines and he will defend them, in contrast to one of his predecessors.
So Israel does have a green light in your assessment to pursue further action against Iran and prosecute it in the event that it is deemed necessary?
Listen, I think it's clear that the United States and Israel are very close on these matters, but President Trump is the president of the United States. He's not going to give anybody a blank check for American support moving forward infinitely. But right now, he's very much opposed to, and he has consistently been opposed to Iran's attaining a nuclear weapon. And I have no doubt that he will either support Israeli efforts or participate them should that become necessary. No doubt whatsoever.
Zooming out a little bit and entering into the Yemeni theater, General Rosen, we're talking, of course, about the so-called major Iranian proxy still left standing, albeit crutching, or doing so with crutches. To what degree are we going to see a certain response to the latest announcement by this proxy, Ansar Allah, dominated by the Houthi tribe, that it's going to start attacking once again all vessels that have any type of affiliation with Israel, which, if we can learn from their previous similar announcements, means pretty much any vessel transiting through the Strait of Hormuz.
Except Americans.
No, not except Americans. He said any vessel, including the Americans.
Well, they have a ceasefire with the US.
Supposedly.
Yeah, I think that it's a wrong move on the part of the for the Houthis. I think the Houthis are miscalculating, like their masters, the Iranians. Israel now is focused on what it needs to focus, even though it's still dragging. We're still dragging our foots in Gaza, and we have a lot of problems. Right now, we can focus on the Houthis. And they're far away. It's a long way to Yemen, but still, if they continue to do what they're doing, they will continue to get hit by Israel. And the more time passes, the better intelligence you have, and the campaign will get better and better, both from a military decapitation standpoint and a command and control standpoint, all the way to all the way up. I think it won't be something good for them, and maybe that's what they need to do in order for them to understand that. Some people are happy that that's what they said. I want to maybe emphasize on the EMP that you mentioned before. The EMP threat is, Japan has the same threat from North Korea. One of the threats from the North Koreans is that they detonate an EMP nuclear device above Japan mainland, and by that, because Japan is such a digital nation, it will greatly affect them. there's a difference between Japan and Israel. The difference is that Israel knows that it needs to defend itself for decades from EMP capabilities, EMP munitions, and so on and so forth. So I think that the effectiveness per se would be different. Not saying that it would be fun, because not everything is protected. But just to say that the context is very, very different, and it's not that you don't have to worry when a nuclear bomb explodes above your head, but it's just a different threat, and it just shows you, as you said, as you mentioned, that they're just trying everything they can to inflict damage to the Israeli state.
Well, the insinuation speaks for itself, I think, what General Rosen just implied. But it is good to know that Israel has not been standing idly by. A correction, of course. I meant
Yes.
Bab el-Mandeb and not
Right. Now, 2
Hormuz.
points.
Go ahead.
First of all, regarding the Houthis, it is not only that they keep harassing us Israelis when we are roused from our beds at 3 a.m. by an air or missile raid alert when they launch a missile or two every other week. They have a blockade on the port of Eilat. Even when they don't shoot, insurers and owners of shipping lines do not take the risk of going through Bab el-Mandeb or through. They can go through the Suez Canal, but it's a roundabout way.
Well, they've been using those type of munitions against vessels since October 17th now, which indicates
2023,
which indicates almost 22 months
Yes,
of
indeed.
repeated attacks in which the port of Eilat has received
Indeed.
almost 0 vessels.
So even if you don't hear that there has been another Houthi attack on Israel, the fact remains that it's unsustainable for Israel. Another point regarding the proxies, Ismail Qaani, the head of the IRGC, has visited
RGC Quds Force.
has visited the pro-Iranian militias in Iraq. Obviously, he's trying to foment trouble there.
Indeed. At the same time, we are hearing about unverified reports of an Israeli delegation that visits in Yemen to discuss with the rival tribes of the Houthis.
With the good Yemenites.
With the good Yemenites, so to speak, the internationally recognized Yemeni government or coalition of tribal forces. So there is something happening behind the scenes. We will have to wait and see what actually happens there. There are roughly 3 minutes left. And of course, there's another actor in the context of the Iranians, Hezbollah. Professor Berman, when we're talking about Lebanon, we are hearing that there is mounting pressure on the Lebanese government to ensure that Hezbollah dismantle or give up its arms in the context of the in a military wing within the broader organization, something that the Iranian proxy has refused to date, irrespective of all kind of statements and rhetoric surrounding that. Are we expected to see a certain intensification of America's involvement to pressure such a result?
Just as in our discussion about Iranian nuclear capacity, significantly degraded but not disappeared, one could say the same thing about Hezbollah. It is significantly degraded, but it has not disappeared. It is present, and the challenge for the Lebanese government, maybe the first credible Lebanese government in a long time, is to see whether it can assert its monopoly on the legitimate violence within the state that Hezbollah challenges. It is in the U.S. interest to see the Lebanese government, the legitimate Lebanese government, prevail over this rogue militia, which is what Hezbollah has become. The future, who knows? I can't predict what will take place in Lebanon. There is a possibility that Hezbollah could be disarmed and become a political party in a normal legislative situation, but that doesn't seem to be where Hezbollah's leadership is right now.
Hezbollah seems to repeatedly highlight that its only aspiration is currently to see the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Ironically, the Taif Agreement is mentioned in 1701 with the Washington Accords, of course, the agreements related to this, which does include the disarmament of Hezbollah, but they're not mentioning that part, of course. In 20 seconds, General Rosen, are you optimistic?
Optimistic is a very optimistic thing for the Middle East. I am, but maybe surprisingly, I am optimistic. This is a moment of change in the Middle East. I think that big things have changed here, and there is a chance that we will see things change in parts of the Middle East which have been battered by war for decades. Lebanon might change with Hezbollah greatly degraded. Syria, Abrahamic Accords. We might see things moving in the near future. I think somehow, weirdly, Gaza first is a good way to start this big change amid the success of the military side, but we need the political side to follow.
I'm less optimistic when it comes to the Abraham Accords in Syria, or at least putting those two in the same sentence, but we'll have to wait and see. With that, I'd like to thank Professor Berman, General Rosen, and Mr. Olin for all of your insights. I'd like to thank all of you at home as well. Until our next edition from here in Jerusalem, Shalom.
As the geostrategic landscape continues to shift at unprecedented speed, Deep Dive is a weekly update you cannot afford to miss.
There is zero chance that Iran will back away from its terror support.
We have a direct threat against Russian interests.
That's what's at stake. It's not Syria. It's a Middle Eastern order.
Whoever has the most guns, whoever has the most money, the most backing, that's who's going to be in charge.
From Jerusalem to Washington, watch now. Hudson Institute's Deep Dive.